welcoming Dean Charles Chapman, George MacKay, and producer, writer, director Sam Mendes. Thank you all for coming in today. I know you just got back from New York, so we appreciate it. So before I get to the how this film was made, I wanted to start with the why. And at the end of the film, we saw the dedication to Alfred Mendes. So Sam, can you tell us a bit about who he was and how he inspired 1917?
So Alfred Mendes is my grandfather, and he told me stories where he fought in the Western Front as a 17-year-old. In 1916, he arrived. He fought for 2 years. He was gassed. He was given a medal for bravery. He went home. He came back again. He had an extraordinary history there, but he never spoke about it with his own children. So my dad never heard the stories of what happened to my granddad in the First World War. But for whatever reason, when we were kids, he decided to tell us. So I was probably about 10 or 11. And he told us a multitude of stories. A very engaging character, very charismatic, very funny, very theatrical, tiny man. And was a novelist. And so he was very good with words. And a storyteller. One of the many stories he told me was because he was very small and he was very fast, he was given the job of carrying messages from one sentry post to another. And for some reason, this image of one man carrying a message through that wall always stuck with me. And after Bond, the second Bond movie, which I did, which is now 4 years ago, I had a couple of years off and I did some theatre, and I couldn't find the movie I wanted to make. And I was encouraged by a couple of very good friends, one of whom was Pippa Harris, who produced this movie, to write my own script. Finally, do what come on, get off your arse and write something, you lazy director. And so the thing that was in my head, and I suppose always had been in my head, was this one image, and that was where we started. And I took it from there. Now, George is not playing my grandfather, neither is he, but the spirit of the story and the fact that it lodged in my mind from then, that is in the film. One of the things he used to do is he used to wash his hands incessantly. And I remember asking my dad, why does Granddad wash his hands? And he says, because he remembers the mud of the trenches and he could never get clean. And I remember saying to him, what were the trenches? So clearly, at the age of 10 or 11, not only had I never heard of the trenches, I don't think I'd ever even heard of a war, frankly. One of the things I think you feel you make a movie like this is that we're lucky. We're born in peacetime, and well, most of us. And my parents' generation, and my grandparents' generation were not. And this movie goes towards trying to acknowledge some of the sacrifice that was part of that society in a way that it isn't anymore.
Yeah, and even though it's set during World War I, the characters don't feel that far removed from people today. So George, was that your sense when you first read the script? You could relate to the characters straight away?
Yeah, before I read the script, when I auditioned for the role, I did a tape with Nina Gold, who cast it, and there were just 2 scenes that with the audition sites. And I remember reading those scenes, and it doesn't always happen with an audition, but I remember thinking, I know this man, or at least I know an interpretation that I'd like to give. And then I did that reading, then I read for Sam, and Sam told me about the whole project and how we were going to make it, and then Dean and I read together. But yeah, I always felt, or I feel very close to Scott Field, and I feel I understand him personally, and so in terms of understanding all the more, it was about building the context around him. And as you say, it's a period piece, but we're all humans, and I think we've always felt the same thing. It's just the context shapes how the result of those feelings.
We've seen a lot of films set in World War II, but less set in World War I. So Dean, what kind of research did you need to do in preparation?
I watched the Peter Jackson film, Shot Which is brilliant, if anyone's not seen it before. But me and George, we did a couple of research trips. We went out to France and Belgium. We looked at some great museums. I read a book called The Western Front Diaries, and that's diary entries of soldiers that were in the war. And I found actually my great-great-grandfather had a diary entry in there. And he was in the cavalry, and he got shot and paralysed in no man's land, and he survived for 4 days. And then he worked in a poppy factory after the war until he died. And I used to read that for inspiration, look at interviews of soldiers that were in the war that was filmed in like the 60s, 70s, just anything I could really. There's loads on the first book, so it's interesting.
And so much of it comes down to the friendship between your characters. Great performances by these two. Can you talk a little bit about casting both of these actors and how impressed you were with them?
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the things that I was very grateful for right at the beginning of this process, putting the movie together, was that I was working with in tandem with a studio who said to me, "You cast who's right for the part, not cast the most commercial option," which is unusual for a movie of this scale. They did say quietly, "It would be nice if some of the other actors were familiar to us." That's not to say that. I mean, I actually did know George, and I didn't know Dean, but that's my ignorance. But they're not exactly green. I mean, they've both done wonderful things, but they're not yet household names. And so, because for me, what I wanted was an audience to bring no other or very little reference to their relationship with these two boys. And there's a reason for that, is that in a way you want an audience to feel that these two are two among millions, and not at the beginning of the story for any particular reason special. By the end, they are, in the way that every single individual in that war must have been. But they're not. It's not a given. Their heroism is not a given, you know. And so for me, what I was looking for was two people who offer a sort of beautiful parallel to each other. Schofield for me was a bit more middle class, grammar school boy, more internal, quiet, dignified, in a sort of old-fashioned way. And for me, Blake was younger, less experienced in the war, different class, slightly more working class, a bit more chatty, warmer, natural storyteller. And so I was looking for these two counterpoints, really. And then they walked in a way that you hope for as a director. And then, because we rehearsed for so long, because the way that we made this movie dictated that we needed to rehearse every scene on location months in advance, what happened was I began to watch them, and they began to inform the roles. And I started to sort of delicately craft the parts towards what I felt they were best at, or most interesting doing. It wasn't that they weren't capable of doing everything, which they were, but the relationship developed on screen and off screen between them. They became very good friends. And watching the way they just interacted was actually very informative and helpful for me, because at the end of the day, you know, it's a friendship that happens in a war situation that perhaps would not happen in any other situation, because they probably would not move in the same circles back in England, they wouldn't drink in the same pubs, they wouldn't do the same things, and yet they're drawn to each other in the way that people who are thrown together in unusual situations often are. And they learn from each other in ways that they don't fully comprehend.
Yeah, Blake really does seem like the heart of the movie. And I was going to ask you both about developing the chemistry between you two, but it sounds like it happened naturally over the course of the rehearsals.
Yeah, we spent loads of time together. I mean, it's kind of, you know, as you say, it's a kind of, you don't want to contrive that. But we went on research trips, and you know, and that was one thing. We had a couple of, you know, a lot of funny moments as well. We went and saw this incredible, you know, physical history, and then we took so much from it. We said, right, well, let's do our own trip. And I googled what time, you know, all the museums opened, but I didn't take into account that it was closed in January. So we drove to Belgium to go to an empty car park, and Dean's walking up going, God, can you imagine if it was closed? We get to the door and they go, oh yeah, we're not open today. We're like, all right. So It's just stuff like that. There was loads of other stuff open. We weren't completely ignoring, but yeah, it just takes time to get that.
But they make it sound very easy, and physically it was very demanding. It was very, very hard. It's very difficult, and they would never complain because they're not those sorts of guys anyway. But no one on this movie complained, even though the conditions often were hard. It was a very difficult shoot because what we were doing was 1,000th of what the men did in reality. What's 3 weeks in a month, and people spend 3 years in a month. But they both give very physical performances. It was hard at times, and especially I think for George in the second half of the movie where the second half of the film is almost entirely without dialogue, apart from the scene in the cellar with the girl and the baby. George doesn't say very much, but he communicates with every atom of his being, every fibre of him, both of them do.
Let's talk about the way that this was shot. Sam, what was the decision behind making it appear like one shot?
Well, when I had the idea to write and direct the movie, it was 2 hours of real time. It was always carrying a message for 2 hours of real time. And how do I make an audience emotionally connect and immerse themselves in that 2 hours? It was as simple as that. It was an emotional decision. And from the moment I had that, the technical challenge, seemed to be dwarfed by the emotional upside of not being able to leave those characters' side. The technical challenges that followed were about where the camera should be close to the characters and where they should be separate, where you should see the geography, the scale of the landscape they were crossing. So you understood the geography always, what had to be achieved in the next section, what you did and didn't see, the times when they're looking at something that you don't see, or you can see something they can't. How does the plane come down? Does it come down behind them, ahead of them, over the top of them? All of those sorts of things. Those were the discussions that Roger Deakins and I had for months before we started shooting. And then it became a technical issue. Okay, so what rigs are we shooting on? But after that, as the boys say, they rehearsed for so long. Two things happened. One is they became so used to the camera moving around them that it became invisible to them, and yet they were aware of it, which is a sort of sixth sense that happens when you just do something and something. They were so concentrated on each other or on the goal of the scene. The camera was in their peripheral vision, but they weren't, and they were aware just enough of it. And the other thing that happens is that I was very aware that I wanted to let the two of them just do the scenes over and over again while we were discussing rigs, the journey, where the camera was, how we were going to achieve all sorts of effects. The more we did that, the more I left them alone, the more they did that, it became theirs, their characters, their journey. And I wanted that sense of ownership. So when you hear Dean say it felt like it was him, that makes me feel very happy, because I felt like there was a lot of time I didn't really want to interfere with what they were doing. Just wanted to give the occasional steer, a moment here, a moment there, but basically they knew the characters better than I did, even though I'd written them. By that time, the time we set action on an actual shot after a few months, they were the authors of their characters, and that's where you should be. And coming from the theatre, for me, it's not a scary thing. It's a wonderful thing to say to actors, okay, we rehearsed for the last 7 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. I'll see you in 2.5 hours. It's yours now. Off you go. Fly. And obviously the first time they do that in any play, they shit themselves. It's terrifying. But very quickly, it does become theirs. And that feeling of handing something over is familiar to me. I don't want to keep control over it every second. So these long tapes felt like pieces of theatre. They just happened to be in the real world as opposed to on stage. So all of those things fed back into the one shot, fed back into this feeling that you were I wanted the audience to feel like they were being pulled forwards rather than being presented with information. It's like a gravitational pull. You want to feel like there's this growing cumulative menace that you can't stop. You have to get there even though you don't want to. And that feeling, I think it's embodied. I think one of my favourite moments is the moment when Schofield wakes up. He doesn't know where he is, after he's blacked out, he's fallen down the stairs. He doesn't know what time it is. He doesn't know what day it is. He's pretty much forgotten what he was supposed to be doing anyway. and yet he keeps walking. And that moment when he's walking into that extraordinary hallucinatory landscape of the flares and the light moving around him, you don't know whether it's a dream or he's awake, but he's going to keep going. The sort of endeavour of it, just staggering forward blindly, that seems to me a great metaphor for the Great War. You know, we're going to get there in the end, even though we've long since forgotten the reason we were here. So you know, those things came out of the necessity to shoot it all in one. It fed back into the action, fed back into the performances, and vice versa. You know, and I can't imagine doing it any other way. But I think it's fair to say I couldn't imagine it even on day one of rehearsals. We'd already committed to it so completely.
So George, how much of the rehearsals were choreography in terms of, did you have marks you had to hit? Because there's so much happening all the time, extras, explosions.
Yeah, we kind of did it in layers. So the very first day we did, it was this time last year, we were on Bovingdon Airfield before it was a trench system, and Sam had kind of very roughly blocked out, you know, walking along with a script. Okay, this is the approximate distance. Now you and Dean, now you have a go. And we would just run the scenes, and we would run them a number of times until we kind of felt that we had the rhythm of the scene first of all, because that dictates the size of the set. And so once we kind of got our layer down, then we put the layer of the environment down, and then we'd introduce the other elements within the environment, which would then change the rhythm again, because we're having a dialogue, but then someone's in your way, so you have to, you take 2 steps back, and then you speed up to get on. So we just did it in layers and layers and layers. And
so that would be walk on an empty field, then a week later put a post down where you work, then when you understand where the scene needs to be interrupted or they need to be forced to the side, introduce elements within that set, then dig the trench, rehearse again, then add the background into the trench, rehearse again. And each one is a separate rehearsal. And we had over a mile of trenches done, because we couldn't repeat anything. We could never go back, never go backwards. And so every one had to be rehearsed. And sometimes you had to take the acting choices out of their hands without them knowing it. There's a little moment that I always smile to myself early on, and I think George probably remembers it, which is that they're ploughing their way down that first trench near the Andrew Scott just before they go over into no man's land. And up to that point, Schofield has been chasing after Blake, because Blake is obviously determined and won't listen to reason, he's going to go over. But then suddenly the power structure flips, and they start talking about how quiet it is, and Blake says to Schofield, was it like this before the song? And suddenly Schofield's the one who doesn't want to talk, doesn't want to engage. And I had to try and find a way to change the relationship in the middle of the conversation, even though they were walking down a trench. And so I just asked two background to just push past them. And from that moment, Blake, instead of walking ahead of Schofield, is walking behind Schofield. And I know that sounds like a simple thing, but the entire relationship changes just from those two people pushing past. Suddenly it's Schofield who's leading the way. Suddenly it's Schofield who goes, oh, he's the one who's senior. He's the one who's had the experience. He's the one who's seen the song, who's seen No Man's Land. He's won a medal. Oh, that's interesting. What happened to his medal? We'll find that out later. So that little detail in the script that is Christy Wilson Cairns and myself who wrote the script, had one of the rules we had, such as they were, was no exposition. I wanted, you have to dramatise these men's existence for 2 hours. You don't want them to be explained. That to me is about behaviour, and for that, to turning psychology into behaviour, some clever person says, I'm directing, and that for that you need actors who are able to do that. And these guys were brilliant at that. And yet at some points they didn't even realise. They were so good they didn't really realise that's what they were doing.
Yeah, in that scene you feel the sense of the clock ticking away, and Dean, I know once action started there wasn't really any stopping it. What was that like as an actor?
Scary. We'd done months of rehearsals before, so we sort of subconsciously knew the steps. But I mean, yeah, you get sort of halfway through a take and realise that you maybe masked Jules, so Jules hadn't seen by the camera lens, and you think, fuck, I'll do it again, shit. So there was definitely a lot of that, but the whole art of it was to just carry on, and that's the whole thing with Blake and Schofield. No matter what, even though it's daylight, even though there could be Germans to the other side, they've just got to get there. And that's their mission. That was just, the whole point of it.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the film. Please join me in thanking the things